There are a lot of places to learn visual effects across the internet, and when you start out in the industry, it can be pretty daunting. Where do you begin? What's worth it? What program does what? Should I go to school? Who should I learn from and why? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. Hi, my name is Olaf Blamaris, and my education was in photography, not visual effects. And sure, that base in photography has helped me out immensely along my decade-plus journey in visual effects, especially in regards to lighting, rendering, photoreal compositing. But as much as my formal education wasn't in visual effects, I'm not, as the popular saying goes, self-taught. I learned from tons of other people much smarter than me that were kind enough to share their knowledge with the world. But when I decided to start learning visual effects, there definitely weren't the resources there are now. I used to have to order physical DVDs or buy books. I also had no one to turn to when I had a question. And there were a lot of questions. Lots. So what I hope to do here is break down the pros and cons of many of the leading online learning resources available so that hopefully you'll be better informed as to why to go there, and more importantly, where to spend both your time and money wisely. But before we get started, I'm going to assume you don't know too much about visual effects yet and may still be at the point of asking what program you should be starting with. So I'm going to do an incredibly quick generalization to help you out. If you already know, feel free to skip ahead as the chapters are all marked out. So let's go through the programs that are the current industry standard for a specific area, but also understand that most programs can do it all, but all of them do certain things far better than others, as you'll most likely discover along the way. This way, if you're looking to specialize in a particular field, you can cut straight to that program as your main focus and go from there. This is going to be a super quick high-level overview, so hold on. Cinema 4D or C4D is almost certainly the standard for motion graphics, product renders, and small-scale visual effects stuff. Every studio I've worked for has had it as part of their primary pipeline. It's incredible for material looked at and the easiest program to learn with no prior 3D knowledge. Maya is the standard for animation, period. Having tried to do the equivalent in C4D and Houdini, I can vouch for that. Animating in Maya is intuitive and very robustly featured, and once you add the animation staple plugins like Animbot or Advanced Skeleton, you'll see why. And just look up any animation tutorial from industry vets on YouTube, and guess what they're using. Houdini has no equal, and seriously, it's an incredibly powerful program, and if you were to only learn one, it'd be this. But its learning curve is steep and unforgiving. That said, Houdini is the standard for simulations, pyro, liquid, destruction, particles, you name it. It can do it. And its ability to handle insane amounts of data still blows my mind. I would argue Houdini should be a part of every VFX artist's arsenal. Even knowing a little bit can go a long way, but maybe not the best one to start with, unless you have some advanced knowledge of coding and at least some sort of 3D fundamentals already. Nuke is the industry standard for compositing. Its node-based workflow can't be beat. Yes, you can still composite in After Effects and Fusion, but I've never been hired to composite in anything but Nuke. Nuke is expensive though, too expensive in my opinion, but sadly because there's no competition as far as I can see. Unreal is the industry standard for real-time graphics or virtual production, but I've failed to learn Unreal multiple times and definitely not the best person to talk about why it's awesome. Which it is, but just not for me. Keep in mind though, if Unreal is part of your path, you'll still need some sort of DCC for most modeling and/or animation. And then there's Blender. Well, here's the thing, I've tried to learn Blender 4 or 5 times now, and every time just give up. Blender is wired upside down and inside out as far as I'm concerned. Between navigating, what things are called, and its general thought process, I just cannot make sense of it to my pre-wired brain that works in way too many other programs already. That said, if you had zero skin in the game, I'd recommend Blender as a starting point. It gets better and better with each release. Some of the most inspiring work comes out of it, and honestly, makes me very jealous. And it's free. Okay, that's it for my super quick breakdown on software itself. On to where to learn how to use one or all of these in your journey into the world of visual effects. First up, REBELWAY. I'm on my 4th course from REBELWAY now, and the amount I continue to learn from them is staggering. What's daunting at first with sites like REBELWAY is the cost. They are definitely some of the most expensive courses you can take, but the key here is they're courses, not tutorials. They strive not to just walk you through the specific effect, but rather teach you a strong foundational understanding of the software and approach so that you're not only able to pull off the included projects, but also problem solve outside of them for future ones. Each week is packed with multiple tutorials that alone already teach you a lot, but when packaged together, really teach you what you need to know, and from industry vets too, so you know these folks know what they're talking about. They also have a fairly active Discord server that you join when you first sign up, and it gives you a quick way to ask questions and receive feedback on your weekly assignments. And the feedback is far more valuable than you first think it to be. You'll inevitably get things wrong as you follow along with the lessons, and having someone communicate directly back to you about what those are not only helps you increase your own personal eye for quality control, but keep you motivated for the next week's lesson and ensure you're actually learning along the way. The downside, you really need to dedicate time to each of the week's lessons and assignments, which can be difficult to slot into a day job, family, friends, life, so keep that in mind with these larger courses. The plus side is you have a lifetime access and you can download watermark videos too, so you can learn whenever or wherever works for you. My first foray into visual effects was ordering GNOMON DVDs, Ryan Church, Matte Painting with Do So, and doing my best to try and follow along. They've since graduated to the online space and have a pretty extensive collection of tutorials that cover a lot of subjects, from the more traditional to the cutting edge. And while their tutorials are taught by some of the most insanely talented industry vets, the offer is subscription. And with over 300 tutorials, that's an amazing deal, but the downside to a subscription system is you're never able to go back and review or refresh yourself on a topic unless you have an active subscription. And that's a huge part of learning, being able to go back and review. And at 57 USD a month or 500 USD a year, that's pricey. And with no feedback or guidance, you're pretty much on your own and left to piecemeal your curriculum together. It's definitely a catch-22, a really great offering of knowledge, but I'm not a fan of the access and the cost. I much prefer to be able to buy a lesson or tutorial once and access it whenever I feel the need to refresh or relearn. LearnSquared really is one of the best learning platforms out there. They have tons of great courses, and I have many of them, and I mean many. I may also have a small problem with just collecting tutorials and hope I'll just learn by having them. But in all honesty, LearnSquared is worth every penny. They're great value for what you get, all by working professionals in the industry. I learned an immense amount about C4D, motion design, ZBrush, drawing, and more, and specifically Substance Designer in the course by Javier Perez elevated my texture game to a whole new level. They also have a killer podcast and do a great job of sharing their students' work. I think my only gripe would be I find their interface a little clunky at times. Not terrible, but not great. Could be just that little bit better. But I'm really nitpicking here. My only true grievance is no offline viewing option. I would love for a way to save these for offline viewing when I'm traveling or without an internet connection somewhere, but beyond that, really, I couldn't recommend them more. CGMA or CG Master Academy is much like REBELWAY, one course with multiple lessons or tutorials that lead you to a bigger, broader understanding. But whereas REBELWAY usually focuses on a single software, CGMA, at least the course I took, seems to focus on disciplines that span multiple softwares. For example, I took character creation for film cinematics with Pete Zoppi, and I learned a ton across Substance Painter, Maya, and ZBrush. It's one of my favorite courses I've taken, and I can't wait to dive back in and create another character soon. Much like REBELWAY, these are big dedications in terms of time, but come with weekly feedback, and that is absolutely invaluable in making each week worth even more. Its only real negative is that it's even more pricey than the majority of REBELWAY, but very much worth it in my opinion. Just be sure you're not biting off more than you can chew, and check the difficulty level, whether it's beginner, intermediate, or advanced. BATTLEREADY Academy is a newcomer to the education game by an absolute VFX titan, Alex Halstead. With almost 20 years in the industry and an FX supervisor at ILM, Alex blew open the gates with his first production-ready course, Meteor FX and Houdini and Nuke. Every bit of it so far has wowed me and taught me something new. BATTLEREADY doesn't only set you up for success, but you'll also be pleasantly surprised by all the small things Alex adds along the way that make you an even better Houdini artist than you'd hope to be. Now yes, Houdini is the main focus at the moment, and the selection is limited, for now, but trust me when I say there's more to these courses than pretty portfolio pieces at the end, and the bang for buck is definitely there too. You also get access to their Discord server and a great group of like-minded learners you can bounce questions and ideas off of. Alex also has a YouTube channel that I'll link in the description below. Make sure to head over after this. YouTube is a great resource. Of course it is. We all have access to it, and it has an insane amount of education for literally any subject. So when it comes to VFX, yes, it's awesome, if not the best. There's not really anything to promote or sell here. I use YouTube every single day, whether it's to learn something brand new or get a quick tip or simply remind myself where a specific tool is. The downside is it's rather piecemeal when you don't know what you're looking for, and anyone can be an expert. So when you're just starting out, it can be difficult to determine how to validate someone's technique or workflow. Typically, anyone who has an industry reel to back what they're talking about or a specific playlist of videos on the subject will be a good bet. But again, it's free, so just dive in and explore. Okay, this may be a bit of an oddball for the VFX community, but LinkedIn Learning, which used to be lynda.com, is where I learned a lot in the early days of my career. I learned how to build my own website, how to work in Illustrator, and even some Flash. Now, on the surface, it may not seem like much, but it offers a surprisingly extensive collection of tutorials and some absolute beauties like this one by Steve Wright. He goes through almost everything you could ever possibly tackle just in regards to keying in Nuke. Just keying. I've gone back to this tutorial time and time again, every time I feel like it reinforces something I'd forgotten I even learned. So many useful approaches and breakdowns. So yes, there's some great stuff in there, but what's even greater is you can get it all for free. Yes, for free. Now, I can't confirm this is available everywhere, but here in YYC, your library card comes with free access to LinkedIn Learning. And library cards are free. So, just saying. Side note, the course I mentioned isn't even listed in the primary LinkedIn Learning site anymore. You have to actually have a membership to even see it. So don't trust the quick search without logging into your new account. So while I can't vouch personally for DOUBLEJUMP Academy as I haven't taken any of their courses, they are on my radar with some cool looking stuff I'd love to dive into, specifically pyro simulations in Houdini and maybe even some Unreal stuff, if I ever swallow my pride and try to learn that program again. I mean, just look at these. I'd love to find the time and really put some of these to the test. The cost seems to be on par with that of REBELWAY, and they even build some of their own custom tools and provide them for free to download, which is equally awesome. So while I can't speak specifically to their pros and cons, they do seem like a rather solid resource worth checking out. ENTAGMA truly is one of a kind. When they first came into the tutorial game, they set the standard for what was possible in Houdini, not only walking you through the code used to make some of the coolest stuff, but also explain the theory behind it. They've since grown to create a rather extensive set of tutorials for Houdini, Blender, and Unreal, ranging from absolute beginner to pretty advanced. They have so much to choose from and so much that's free as well that you'd be hard-pressed not to find some value there. Honestly, I can't even think of a single negative thing to say. ENTAGMA should be on every VFX artist's list of best places to learn. A huge thank you to them for everything they've done for the community. I'll talk about Patreon in a moment, but theirs is easily one of the best there is, so be sure to have a look. CG Circuit is a bit of a difficult one to define. On one hand, it's got a lot to offer, but to be honest, it's a bit of a mess. It's difficult to tell what the caliber of a tutorial is and what the quality of the teaching is. It's a bit all over the place. I had one on there where the result was a well-crafted disintegration effect, but the lesson was so difficult to follow that I often found myself going back, trying to connect the dots, and it just gets frustrating. But then, on the other hand, you have potentially one of the greatest VFX tutors on the internet, the all-knowing and all-sharing Stephen Nipping. He's responsible for shots like this, and this, and this. His vast array of Houdini tutorials are absolutely perfect in teaching you more than the basic path to any given effect. Stephen goes through and explains everything in such a well-crafted way that you end up being smarter just for having pushed play. He's truly an angel for the gift he's given us in learning how to do what he does in Houdini. So if Houdini is your end goal, search no more. Seriously, one of the best. So yeah, CG Circuit, a bit of a hot mess, but there's some shining stars in there if you're looking hard enough. By the way, Stephen also does a great job updating his tutorials for when Houdini has changed how things are done. That makes sure his lessons aren't broken or don't work in some way across versions. And trust me, in Houdini learning, that happens a lot. Patreon is another one that can be tough to measure as good or bad. Maybe it's more hit or miss. I know the ENTAGMA one is easy to recommend as they're pretty consistent in delivery and they cover such a wide variety of topics and skill levels. Ian Hubert is great for sharing working files and his unique and efficient ways of using Blender. Damn, he's so good. Saul Espinoza is great for Redshift learning, Paul Estevez for Houdini, and to be honest, there's probably even more great ones out there that I'm just simply not familiar with. So in short, I'd say Patreon is great when you want to directly support the creator of said tutorials that maybe you've discovered on some other platform, but as far as curation and discoverability, I don't know. But if you know of some great Patreon VFX resources, please leave a comment below. I'd love to know more of them. ArtStation, GUMROAD, Flip Normals, I'm lumping these all together here because they fall into this sort of middle ground of tutorials and assets. Places where you can find a variety of great tutorials by incredibly talented artists, but also tons of useful 3D assets to help along with your VFX journey. So that's it for what I would consider the best places to learn visual effects online these days. Here's a quick recap. Did I miss one that you think was worth mentioning? Or maybe you disagree with how I feel about some? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching. Till next time.